It was many, many, many years ago. In fact, it was my 16th birthday. Let's see. Carry the 2. That would have made it 1964. July 3rd, 1964 to be exact. And I was playing Pony League baseball. 13 to 15-year-old. So this was my last year of organized ball because as the season progressed, those pitchers developed a good curveball. My batting average went. And we had a twilight game at Patterson Park in Baltimore against a team that would go on to win the championship. In fact, they won both rounds, and this game was the last game of the first round. I didn't want to go. But out of duty, I went. And it was a good thing I went. There were 15 guys on the team, and I made number 9 that showed up. We would have forfeited otherwise. Not the 2 pitchers, not the starting catcher, not the starting third baseman. We were in deep trouble. We had a guy playing right field who can't play. Now, you all know if you have kids in baseball, they always stick the kid that can't play out in right field and hope no ball goes near him. Okay? I was the first baseman. A guy had been waiting all year to pitch. His name was Sammy Angel. I can remember that name, you know, Angel. Okay. So Sammy started the game off, and he promptly walked the first 3 batters. He couldn't find home plate if his life depended on it. The manager called time and started to walk to the mound. I didn't even go over there because I'm thinking, the kid playing in third base right now, he wants to pitch next. And Sammy can't play in the field, and we've already got a guy in right field that can't play. So where are they going to put him? They're going to have to put him on first base and hope he can catch a thrown ball. And I'm going to have to play third base. And I don't want to be here to begin with. Manager says, oh boy. So I get to the mound, he says, give Sammy your first baseman's mitt. And oh, here we go. So he gives me this glove that looks like maybe 1945 vintage with holes. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'm going to get killed on my 16th birthday because these guys are going to be peppering line drives down third base like crazy. Well, much to my surprise and to the chagrin of the kid playing third base, the manager looked at me and handed me the ball and said, "You're pitching." So I guess I'm pitching. Now, today's gospel passage may bother you some, because it's one of those excerpts that we get from time to time that we just don't understand. We don't get, in fact, we'll scratch our head and say, Jesus said what? Love him more than parents and brothers and sisters, take up your cross, lose your life in order to win it, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, if you think this is bad, go to the Gospel according to Luke. There, Jesus doesn't say, love me more than your parents. He says you have to hate your parents. Jesus is telling us to hate our parents? Did Jesus? Of course not. We don't understand these things because we live in the 21st century Western world of technology. We don't live in the first century Mediterranean basins with peasants living. Things meant different then than they do now. Words had different meaning, and there was the cultural context, what the people thought. Scripture scholars call it the social science setting. And you've got to know that to understand what Jesus was originally telling those people, and therefore us today. For example, the greatest example is from Matthew 2, and it's where Jesus says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Now, you know there are people who take the scriptures literally. Is Jesus telling us to go through the world maimed and cut off our hands? Of course not. The people in his time did not always think about a person as being body and soul. That's what we think. It's Greek. It's Hellenistic. We just accept that as that's the case now. They had this thing called the three-zone personality. And different parts of the body were symbolic of certain things. The extremities, the hands and the feet, were symbolic of purposeful actions. So at the Last Supper, when Jesus gets down and washes the feet of his apostles, he's not only washing the dirt and the grime and other things I won't mention that were on their feet, he's symbolically washing away their actions, their sins. And that's the reason why we say the sacrament of penance is there. It's a type of the sacrament of penance. It's a type of baptism because of the water that it washes it away. Theologians debate, is it baptism, is it penance? Whatever it is, it's the forgiveness of sins. The actions. Has nothing to do with literally cutting your hand off. Well, what about this love or hate and the things about the family? Social science context. In that culture, the family was everything. And it was an extended family. Mom, dad, their kids, their spouses, their kids, so on and so forth. And they all lived in one place. And it was thought that the only people they could rely on was the rest of their family. It was the family against the world. Everybody else were liars and trying to get over you. But the family was where security was, where love was, and so on and so forth. So the family was the most important thing. And Jesus is saying he is more important than that kind of a family. Okay? So what about love and hate? Neither were emotions or feelings. Has nothing to do with feelings. In fact, the manifestation of love is something called obedience. That's how you show that you're loved. Didn't Jesus say, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, and my Father will love you, and we'll come, we'll make our abode with you. Love is manifested in obedience. Love was not a feeling, it was being attached to someone or some group. So Jesus is saying, you have to be attached to me more than the most important relationships you think you have in life. And other people who are attached to me are now your family. They take the place of the blood relatives. So all of you here are my brothers and sisters. Everybody in the family of Holy Rosary, everybody in the family of the Catholic Church are my brothers and sisters. Think about that. Social science people call it a fictive group or a replacement family. So Jesus was saying to those people, and they understood this, he is more important than them. The people who are around them now have become your family. You need to cut your ties with your blood relatives because that's not as important as being attached to me. Okay? And he's telling us the same thing. Now, Westerners don't quite understand that, although it's getting a little bit more like that now, because when I was growing up, Mom and Dad wanted the kids out of the house about the age 21. Why don't you go and get married and have kids of your own? Get out of, our house is not big enough, we can't take care of everybody. You may move to another city or another state, calls on Christmas and Easter and sometimes in between, and letters and pictures of the grandkids and stuff like that. But they weren't all in the same house. But now, of course, they're staying around a lot longer, aren't they? Which is the reason why they got to be on the insurance policy to age 26 now instead of age 21. Okay? But we don't have this feeling about that sense of the family was everything to those people. And Jesus was telling them that he's more important than that. And they need to follow him and be attached to him. We need to be attached to him too, don't we? We need to think of him as being the most important thing in our lives. Do we? Do we act like that? I don't know how many times I hear in confession, Father, I was away on vacation for a couple of weeks, and of course I didn't have time or opportunity to find a Catholic church to go to Mass on Sunday. What was the most important thing in that person's life? Not God. right? Oh, I got my kids had a soccer game in you name the place, and we didn't make it to church last week. The soccer game was more important, right? We all do that. We all fall short. We need to do things in our lives to put Jesus into the center of them and to make sure that he's the most important thing to us. Father Robert Barron, before Catholicism series, before being made auxiliary bishop of Los Angeles, wrote a book around the time I was in seminary. And he made the point that illustrates what I'm trying to say, I think, pretty well. He said in that book that your life is not about you and my life is not about me. Think about that. That's shocking, isn't it? I'm Ichiban, right? I'm number one. He's saying it's not the case. So who is our life about? Jesus Christ, the King. We're trying to become other Jesus to other people. We're trying to learn to act the way he did, to love the way he did, to wash people's feet. No, they did a survey not too long ago that said most churches are not very as welcoming as they should be when they see a stranger, a different face, or somebody that looks kind of different than them. That we're not as welcoming and hospitable as we ought to be if we really believe we're all brothers and sisters. So in that regard, I have to thank you, because everybody's been very nice to me before I got here, when the word got out, and since. So you've all come up and said hello to me and been very, very, very welcoming. And so thank you. And now I'm part of your family here at Holy Rosary. So let's try to be what Jesus says we need to be. Attached totally to him above all our other relationships and things in life, and therefore we're a part of a family with one another. Oh, what happened to that ball game? Well, they were the home team. At the end of the first inning, we were down 4-0. 2 runs were charged to Samby because the first guy I pitched to hit a ground ball. We got a force out at second. He should have been charged with 3 runs, but he was charged with 2 and I was charged with 2. We're down 4-0. But don't despair. I pitched a complete game in relief and shut him out the rest of the innings. And we won the game 5-4, and I knocked in the winning run. I told you it was my birthday.